Namaskar, hello everyone. Welcome to 18th episode of Money and Prosperity. I'm Ashok Vyas, Program Director with ITV and founder of Insight for Creativity. And today we will be talking about an important theme which relates to charity. Charitable giving issues, we would like to learn more about them from Paresh ji. And let me tell you something about Paresh Shah. If you are joining us for the first time today, he is the managing principal of Paresh Shah Partners LLC. He is a certified financial planner and wealth strategist for last 22 years. He has helped individuals and businesses co-create innovative financial strategies. He is a licensed CPE presenter, educating CPAs as they guide their clients on investments, life, disability, and long-term care insurance. He specializes in pension and in profit sharing plans, asset protection, estate planning, and business succession planning. Paresh graduated as chemical engineer and he was an honors graduate from prestigious Indian Institute of Technology at Kharagpur, India. 2016, he was honored for Long Island Business News Leaders in Diversity Awards. He resides in town of Hicksville in Long Island, New York, with his wife Shimul and son Shamik. And Paresh, as I welcome you, first of all, स्वागत है आपका.
First of all, thank you so much, Ashok ji, for such a warm introduction.
Paresh, I think many times when we hear the abbreviation, we wonder what it is and then we forget. So what is CPE? Some of our viewers must be thinking CPE presenter. What is that?
Yes. So every profession that has a license in our country normally insists, in order to maintain the license, you have to do continuing education credits. And those continuing education credits for a CPA, the continuing education credits are called CPE credits. I mean, they have to attend classes to keep up with the laws or keep up with what's happening with the changes in their industry. If it's for attorneys, it is called CLE credits, and for physicians, it is CME credits. So each profession has this continuing education credit. Some professions, they've specified it, others they just call it CE credits. So that's what I...
So I must interrupt you to say that it always sounded impressive, but I was just wondering what it is. So many times there are areas around us about which we want to learn more. And Paresh, when you help someone, you feel good. And helping could be in various ways, but one of them happens to be, which we say is, call it donation or charity, and whether you do it religious purpose, you do it socially, there is genuine compassionate heart that you have. And now the question is, when you want to give, there must be certain laws that also come into play as to how much you can give. And even when you are giving, somewhere at the back of your mind, and many people think that, will I also have some fringe tax benefit by this charity? So that point also, I mean, this is genuinely being aware of your rights and what all it is. So when someone is willing to part with large amount of money, or there is a huge asset that they want to gift, what is it that you would recommend they should keep in mind?
First of all, Ashokji, I would like to start by saying that, this charitable giving is something that kind of comes in a certain moment to everybody. Why it comes? It can come because of a variety of reasons. But end of the day, when a person has adequate for himself and his family, and he feels that his children are also comfortable, the desire to give back does come inside. So he does want to do something, so to say, beyond himself, and his immediate family. And that's where the giving kind of desire starts in. I'd like to talk a little bit about story, that when things change to have desires, to give back. So we've heard of the famous Nobel Prizes, and they were initiated by Alfred Nobel, who died in 1902. But he was by education, he was a chemical engineer. And
Oh, wow.
yes.
So you feel good about that?
Yes, I do. And he was the person who, in Sweden, as he was working with chemicals to create the dynamite, which we now know as dynamite, the substance. What was his goal? Was to find a safe substance that could blow into the mountains, etc., so that construction raw material can be taken out easily. And he wanted to find a safe way to do it. He did a series of experiments. In fact, in one of his experiments, unfortunately, he lost his brother, Emil. But later on, he was banned from doing experiments, but he went on a boat, in the middle of the lake and did his experiment. And eventually he came out with the stick of dynamite, which we today know as one of the safest ways in which you can kind of put it into a stone and it blows up. But then the other side of dynamite also came in, which is it started being used as a weapon for war.
Absolutely.
And a weapon of destruction. So one day what happens is that his other brother, Ludwig, he dies. And mistakenly the press come to know, this is in 1888, and mistakenly the press come to know that Alfred has died, Alfred Nobel has died. So what they do is they start publishing about it, and one of the French newspapers had the headline the next day, "The Merchant of Death is dead." And that, now Alfred Nobel is alive and he sees that, and he sees that this is what's going to be written about me after I die.
Oh man.
So at that moment a change comes in and he says, I need to do something that I'll be remembered differently. And therefore he comes up with the idea of setting up the Nobel Prizes, and a majority of his wealth was given away to the Nobel Foundation, which in turn gives out the Nobel Prizes every year. So what is that moment that kind of drives you towards? Is it that small moment when you go and you see somebody who really genuinely needs help? Or what is that moment that you don't know? But in that moment you want to give back. You want to give some portion of what you have to another person. Now, this also has prompted several of the wealthy families in the US to set up foundations. I'm not talking about what Alfred Nobel did, but this one moment that comes in when you want to give a part, and foundations have been set up. So how our government views it in a very nice way. They view it that if somebody is giving back, that means a person who would have otherwise sought help from the government is being helped by an individual. So government, let's say I make money, I pay taxes. Now the government has to use the taxes to help somebody else. In place of that, now I'm directly helping somebody else. So government says, I'll give you a bit of a tax break on it. I'll give you some tax break on it. Now, as with everything with the government, Ashokji, you know that it's never simple. It's never straight. So when you make a charitable contribution, depending on the type of charity that you're making the contribution to, there is a certain upper limit as you get a deduction. That upper limit is based on your income. So it could be 20%, 30% or 50% of your income based on the type of charity that you're working with. So,
Paresh, I want to sort of fold my hands and thank you for sharing that wonderful story of Alfred Nobel. And I think many of our viewers, including me, were not aware that how this Nobel Prize came into being and how the headline of a newspaper, Merchant of Death is dead, kind of triggered a new way of thinking in this man. And another thing also, the way you connected why government is giving tax deduction if you contribute somewhere. So that philosophy or that logic also became clear freshly when I heard it from you. Now tell me, our government is also encouraging, our government, when I say I'm talking to America here, and so if you give back, then government is encouraging that idea of compassion. So what are the important tax savings that come into play when a person or you give to a charity?
So Ashokji, the first one I already mentioned to you. That means if you give money to a charity, then directly you can take that as a deduction. That means you don't pay tax on the money. So as an example, if you're making $100,000 and there are certain charities that fall in the 30% bracket, then you can give up to $30,000 to the charity, and that 30,000 is taken out from your income and you pay tax only on 70,000. But then they went a step further. Let's say, for example, and I'm going to take this with an example, Ashokji, just so that the point kind of comes out, okay? Let us say that you bought shares of a particular company at $10 a share and you bought 100 shares. So you invested $1,000 into the shares of the company. This you did say 20 or 25 years ago, and over the period of time these shares have kept on increasing in value, and today the value of that stock is about $250. So your original $1,000 investment is now worth $25,000. Now let's say you decide to sell that. The government charges you a tax on your gain. It's called capital gains tax, which could be 15 or 20% depending on your income. Again, as nothing is straightforward, as I said, but let's say it's 20%. So on $24,000, 20% is about $4,800 plus your state. So you would have, instead of $25,000 on sale, you would have had about $20,000 on sale. Let's say that. So now let's say there's a charity which needs a donation, and so you decide that, okay, I'm going to give this charity $20,000, correct? So but now the government says, okay, could more have been done? What they say is, you, instead of giving your cash, before you sell the shares, you give those shares as donation. Okay. Now when the charity sells those shares, they don't have any tax gain. It's completely tax free when they sell it. So they get the full 25,000.
Right.
Not only that, you get a deduction on the whole 25,000. So two things happen. Charity got more money and you got a bigger deduction. So in this way, there are several such things, small such items, but this is a very nice way in which, you can actually contribute more to charity as well as get a bigger piece from your personal savings or on your personal side by just having, so to say, played it correctly,
So win-win both sides.
Win-win on both sides, exactly.
But the charitable organization that you have chosen to contribute to, is there some sort of a qualifying benchmark that certain type of foundations or charitable organizations are eligible to receive the donation, which would result into some kind of a tax deduction for the donor?
Right. So there is the way you do it is first of all, anyone who wants to set up a foundation or a charity sets up what we call in the accountant's language. I'm using a bit of accountant's language. Sets up an entity, okay, a business entity. Now, first of all, it's a business entity, and but it is not meant to do business. So under that, you file for its charitable status. That charitable status is called a 501c3. Now that's under that section, if you file, now that filing is very extensive, because at the end of the day, any monies that are going to be received by an organization that has a 501c3 clearance, that money has to be used for the right causes, to help people, to do charitable work, to do real charitable work, So with that thing in mind, at the end of the day, the money is public money, right? So if it's public money, then the government wants to ensure that the cause is right. So you have to fill out a big form describing how you will manage the money, where the money will be used for. And if this is correct, as per the IRS norm, then you get your certificate of 501c3.
Paresh, sorry to interrupt. Sometimes when you have interesting conversation, engaging speaker flies. So we are almost at that moment where we want to say thanks to you. But briefly, if I may share the phone number, which is 516-268-3446. That is the number where you can reach Paresh Shah, 516-268-3446, and his email, as we displayed, pshah@pareshah, PARESHAH.com. And we will have more conversations and more education and enlightenment in the field of finance in the show Money and Prosperity just a fortnight from now. Lots of good wishes, sir.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, Ashwat.
So thanks, Paresh, for helping us learn more about this important theme, and thanks to all of you for being with us.